So today I had something sort of like different in mind. Like rather than me present or someone else present, I thought we would do like an interactive activity basically. And hopefully the topic is interesting to people. It's like, let me actually start sharing screen. So actually maybe let me share this. So as you might remember in a previous session, I talked a little bit about like agent mode and VS Code so using like AI for coding with this feature that's in VS Code specifically. I know not all of you use VS Code, so we won't require it for today, but basically the activity will be based on trying to leverage AI more efficiently for coding that we do. So today I'll be talking about specifically like GitHub Copilot. And they do like we've talked about how they have like a free version. So again, it doesn't work with like the agent mode doesn't work with RStudio or Positron. I forget if it works with Positron. I don't think so. But you can do this stuff for free. Although if you do use the pro version, you get more like agent mode requests a month and stuff. But anyways, today I'll be talking about specifically, there's a bunch of different ways to use Copilot maybe more efficiently than just typing commands in or stuff like that. The first thing that you can do is you can actually provide sort of like instructions to the Copilot, whatever AI agent you're using, and you can provide it in this file under .github Copilot instructions MD. So just like a little markdown, and that can provide like rather than typing all the details of all of your commands, and you can provide sort of like background context, sort of things about the repository that the agent should just know about, and maybe modify its behavior accordingly, according to like certain things. Like you can instruct it like what should certain scripts look like what kind of styling should it use in general when you ask it to perform certain modifications to your code or create new code. And there's a lot of other things that I won't actually cover today. You can get pretty fancy with this, but I think today we can mostly focus on just like the repository wide instructions. So they go through an example where they're like, oh, here are the code standards. What should you do before you do commits? So it can also do commits for you with Git. And what should the repository structure look like? And what are each thing, like what should be each directory? Just a lot of context that can help direct commands more efficiently. So there's also things that you can, I guess I'll mention briefly, that you can provide instructions that are specific to certain paths. So it's like they give an example of like specific tests, like instructions that apply to just this type of file, these types of tests. You can also do like, what should R script, like anything that matches an R script, what should that look like? In theory, you could do something like that. But again, we'll be covering repository-wide instructions today. And so like one of the reasons I was thinking about this, I was playing around with this, and I want to give like a motivating example. So first, let me just show what the example looks like. So before I even cover this. So basically an action that like a lot of times when I'm coding, something that I do very often is like we have a code like with Leo's suggested like format for repositories where we have like code, process data, and we number scripts and directories. Something that I'm constantly doing is like I'll write an R script. So obviously I don't have much R code here, but let's say I have a script under code O1 example. It's called O2 second.r. So a lot of times you can use like Slurm jobs to create the corresponding shell script, or you can copy paste existing shell code. But I think it's even easier to just do something like this. So let me just give an example. So I'm going to go into agent mode over here. I'm using Claude Sonnet 4, which does count towards like, this is only available technically in the premium. I do pay for the premium. I guess as a caveat, I do pay for the premium, which is $10 a month. But there are free models that are okay, I guess. I definitely think the premium ones are a little like noticeably smarter. But anyways, so I'll just say like create a shell script for, actually, you know what, to even make this even shorter, create a shell script for the active file. So the active file being this R script that I open. So just create a shell script. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to give it any more instructions than that. So it'll say what it's doing. Okay, I'll create a shell script for this R script. So now it's saying like, hey, I'm actually going to read these instructions about what I'm supposed to do when I create a shell script. And then it gives I'd rather just show you, right? So this is the shell script we created. So this is exactly what I would want it to create, and I'll go through why. So basically, it has everything that we tend to use in our shell scripts. It has the name of the script in here. It has a log. Like, I tend to put the logs under process data. I know some people put them under code, but I'll put it under the corresponding directory, like O1 example, which corresponds to the code directory, and then O2 corresponding to the R script. Loads conda R 4.5, and then it invokes the R script here. So I find that even easier than, like, we didn't even tell it which. We just said, like, create a shell script for the active file. That's all you have to type, and then it does, at least default. It'll say, like, you might want to change the memory or the number of cores and things like that. But I find this even easier than Slurm jobs or copying and pasting, honestly. So this is like one of the things that motivated me, like, how can we make coding just a little bit easier for things that are repetitive? And so, like I said, or like I alluded to, I guess, this was done through the Copilot instructions markdown file. So I wrote a little markdown just explaining the context for this, right? So I think we'll jump into the activities soon, but basically, let me just go through, like, what I wrote here. So, like, I gave a very brief, like, normally you're supposed to, in the best practices, they say, like, these Copilot instructions.md is for, like, repository wide things. For specific types of prompts, for example, creating shell scripts, you might want to use a prompts file. But this, I mean, as I showed, this worked fine. So I gave it very brief context on the actual repository itself. And then I said, like, sometimes you'll be asked to create a corresponding shell script for the scripts. Our script contains the actual work to execute, and then the shell script contains some Slurm syntax that submits the R job. And this is the structure of the shell script. So I give an example, say, like, this is the base name of the script, for example, the parent directory to the script, that, like, O1 example in this case, and then sort of fill in different aspects of the script. So then I also give it a concrete example, because supposedly those help a good amount with guiding the AI to make more precise decisions.
Give it a prompt to make a shell script for Space Ranger job, like any.
So for, like, Space Ranger specifically, I don't know if it would know.
Like, a lot of times I like spend time writing the code to extract those specific sample names for each individual project.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great idea. I'm not sure how smart it is about Space Ranger without you having to instruct it details about how it works and stuff. It does. I mean, it will have some general knowledge about, probably, it might know what Space Ranger is. It probably does. But yeah, I mean, I think that's actually a good idea for the activity. We can jump into it in just a bit, but I think that's a great idea. So yeah, I gave it, like, a template of what the script should look like, and then I say, like, if I give you something that looks like this, it's under code O2 QC O1 first R. This is the exact script you should create. So it has the little name for the path of the file. So not only do I give it a template, but then I gave it an exact example. So I think those can both be helpful. And then I say, like, I noted for this repository, we don't actually have process data and stuff, and I didn't want it to get confused. So I said, like, just do this even if the process data thing doesn't exist. But yeah, so basically, this is one way to give context to this context, by the way, applies to every command you give the AI. So notice how I didn't say, like, oh, go ahead and read the Copilot instructions before you execute this. It does that automatically. And then it's better for persistent memory.
Put this file in every project?
Yeah, I think I will probably use something like this in our projects. And yeah, you can put it in any project you want. I mean, this is project specific right now. Yeah, if you put it in this particular file for the project, it applies to everything in the project. And so, in theory, I mean, this is the way you should do it. I even tested it with just writing a custom text file that was not under .github Copilot instructions.md and instructed it to manually read it, and it does do that successfully. So that's kind of interesting. But the reason you're not recommended to do that is because there's a context window for these LLMs, and the more instructions you give it, the more it sort of forgets old instructions. And this approach makes sure that it sort of persistently remembers because I think it's applied to every prompt. It's sort of attached to a prompt that you give in here.
Can I ask you about that context window? Is it like
Yeah.
time or just like amount of information that if you put in more at some point, it can't hold more? Or like what?
It's like technically a number of like tokens, which is like basically the input text. So it's an amount of text, I guess. It's pretty large. I think it's getting very large these days, but I've just read that to be a problem. I haven't tested when it. Yeah, it's interesting to see how it's sort of like a human though, like where if you give instructions like a few years ago about something to do, and you might forget, I don't know, once you're given new stuff, but that's the idea. And so I think given this example, I hope we can, I guess I wanted to sort of brainstorm if anyone else had ideas for, we could do like a little brainstorming session. Does anything come to mind where you think that we could provide custom instructions and sort of do something like I did here? Like, I think this was a useful example. Do you think that anything else, like any other coding things that you think could be more automated with this? And I guess I'll leave it open to people. I know don't want to put pressure on people, but you gave the Space Ranger example. I think that's a good one.
Not specifically Space Ranger, but a lot of times I think, I don't know if it's the same with everyone, but I feel like I spend time extracting the sample names in a project. Maybe a museum HT or whatever it is. Like the slide capture name and the corresponding brain numbers.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting if we had like sort of the other thing that would probably help with that is like having like a common file that like has the sample information on it, almost related to like the red hat idea or red cap, where there's sort of like, if we had like a CSV that had like the data sit the same format in every project, then it could definitely learn how to generate the code from that every time. But yeah, so Space Ranger or other things that are samples or the sample names and slides and stuff. Does anything else come to mind? I think one thing I was thinking about is like styling of code, like we have, or we could even provide like somewhere in here, like Leo's documentation about what projects should look like. In theory, this could even be instructions, right? To give it some context about like intuitively understanding where things should go, when to use process data versus plots. Like,
I could make that into like a full Copilot set of instructions.
Yeah.
Have that as a file here on the documentation website, such that you can just copy paste it.
yeah,
Or like have it on the repo, such that we don't necessarily need to fully display it on the website, but at least have it linked.
yeah, okay, yeah,
Right.
that would work.
Like not only for that, but for other things, right? For example, like maybe for stuff about how to update your R packages once you change R versions, or set up your computer, right? Like having the R profile installing R packages. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, feel free to like directly edit the website. Like their ideas, since you know more about these prompts and what format they should have.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of stuff on this website could be useful.
It's kind of like a chores package.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have a set of prompts that can help other people. Like we have it in the format that GitHub Copilot reads them, but maybe also in the format that the chores package understands.
Yeah.
So we can make our custom chores.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Any other ideas?
Partially using some AI applications to produce documentation. On each one of the scripts that I have, if there is enough modular, I can produce a clear documentation, including, documentation of the CSV file that I produce and all this stuff. I think it's very useful and saves a lot of time.
Yeah, it's pretty good for documentation. So.
Other things that I have done is, for example, make a small test units about logical names. And for example, all related with variable names to make consistent code. So it can detect easily when you're, let's say, providing names that are not enough clear. So it could like just propose a couple of changes that I think that include the code. So
yeah, for variable names and stuff. Yeah.
You use it for helping you write method sections of papers, where you say like, I have this text, add citations and add the version numbers. So
Yeah.
maybe you write the text and you're like, just extract non-default arguments,
Oh, yeah.
version numbers based on the log files that it has access to.
Yeah. And it would know where to look for logs and stuff. Yeah.
It's like, I mean, a lot of you have been learning that I want us to list version numbers and stuff. But some of our colleagues do that, and sometimes when I ask them to, like, they're like, "Oh, it's a lot of work if you're not used to doing this,
Yeah.
in a piecemeal fashion."
Yeah.
So that could be useful there because it does help a lot with reproducibility, as functions change a lot across versions, or like we saw with BaseSpace.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Are people using VS Code, or are people using RStudio? I'm just curious if anyone has used this stuff or.
Yeah, if I can share some of the things that I've been doing, just to add to your introduction to this topic.
You want a screen share?
Yeah, can I?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
So let's see. So you see my VS Code. Maybe I should increase it a bit. So what Nick was explaining there, the system actually, the structure that we have here with multiple directories for steps. In this case, I have step 10 out of analysis, and I can open that as a directory, and we can actually put the instructions per analysis. So in this case, it can also read agents.md, which is read by other agents instead of that longer name that Nick used there. It reads both, but the Copilot, it can take these general instructions about description of what's happening in this particular branch of the project. So it's just a folder. That what I'm saying is that since we have this multi-step analysis structure in our templates, you can place in each of them very specific instructions about what that part analysis is doing. So the context is filled with this information, even about what columns are expected, what each script can do, but kind of keep it generic. I noticed that Nick was using a very clear example about how the files should be structured, would make sense for the Slurm batch scripts. But in terms, if you want to actually have this assistant agent to help you with some data analysis, like EDA or something, it would be good to, make it somehow more generic so you can brainstorm with the LLM sometimes too. So in this case, I was actually trying EDA just for a specific structure that I'm loading here. And actually, I was testing. The idea is they can give information about the data structure, right? If you paste this to give context about what kind of columns you have, it's hard to see here, but if you have a large data frame with a lot of numeric columns, you can actually paste that directly in the chat here to give it exactly context about what columns can be used for some EDA code that, of course, you should always check and make sure I understand. But basically, yeah, this can go very far in terms of understanding, in my experience, of what your data looks like and can help you write a lot of code. In this particular case, I was actually looking at possibly to use MCP tools, which is a way of adding context automatically to the session, to the chat for the agents by using a specific POSIT package that gives awareness to the models, to the language models about the data structures that you are using, like what columns are in a data frame. So instead of you having to paste this information about what columns are in a data frame, it can actually run specific tools to actually run these tools to actually inspect the data frames by itself, the model, take initiative and look into what can it do with the data frame in terms of numeric here. For example, I was trying to see if we can do some light EDA and to identify the numeric columns, right, in order to, and because they are actually, it can actually, if you provide enough context about in agents MD here, can actually understand the meaning of some of the columns of interest that I suggested here, like numerical columns, like slope metrics and stuff that I was. But this could be adapted for every subdirectory. That's what I was suggesting, and it can help with generate the code and also, sometimes brainstorm analysis due to the general knowledge that it has about stuff. But in terms of templates, yeah, there are a lot of prompting templates that we can try to adapt. Like they have a lot of, there's some repositories, they're not specific for R, but it's good to have, I learned some ideas about prompting and how to use for GitHub Copilot templates for specific instructions. Maybe I can put this in the chat somewhere, or I don't know. But yeah, I think it's a good repository to learn how to guide these models for your directories, for your projects.
So do you write these agents and we run some prompts on, I guess you're using GPT-5?
Yeah, I prefer GPT-5 lately. Seems
Go
to
back
be.
and edit the agents MD if you don't like the output of it? Like you do this multiple times?
That's interesting. Actually, the way you start now, you can actually can start with ask the model to look at the files in the prompt if you start from scratch instead of having to write a lot. Sorry, let me trying to access, but it's in the way. Okay, sorry. So if I start a new, there is a way to make it. I don't know how to get it right now, but basically there was a way to have the agents scan your files and try to figure out what's happening in terms of code. And it did that for Kovan, for some of my Python files here, and even R files. They're easy to parse. So and it generates a description, and then you can build on that. I started to edit that to improve it, right? To clarify a few things where this data is coming from. It's easier than starting from scratch. So this agents MD could be created both by me and the LLM looking at my code, right? Existing code. Otherwise, you have to start. It's called spec programming right now, right? Instead of vibe coding, is spec coding. You have the right specifications about what's happening in the project. What do you plan to do if it's a new project? But having this agents MD file, is indeed very good for context, and it's added to each conversation because you can see here, like, yeah. The first thing it does when you look at the files that are read, it's information that it's good to keep in mind. The context here is using two references, which is the agent MD file. For every new conversation is going to read that in the current directory. And this is another custom instructions about coding that's documented at GitHub Copilot. It's a coding style to use short variable names because they tend to use very long ones sometimes. And some styling about R that I prefer when generate code. So these are the main information plus this that's read initially for every new conversation. But yeah, this actually Posit has, I wanted to add that Nick mentioned at the beginning, Positron actually just in October release, they started added support not only for Claude, but you can actually have this, the VS Code integration, sorry, Copilot. If you have a Copilot, GitHub Copilot subscription, like the $10 one or something, you can actually use it in Positron now. And it's actually much better integrated with R because Posit is very good at this, and they actually even have a lot of features better
Is
than.
it different from GitHub Pro?
Sorry?
So is it different from GitHub Pro, a different subscription?
No, I think it's GitHub Copilot, the free option that it's very it has very few.
The one you can get access from the GitHub Education.
I think you can get, basically it logs you in Positron. You can log in with your Copilot account, and it sees whatever models you have available in your Copilot account for your subscription or even free ones, I think, but they expire very quickly, right? They become available there right now. It's the latest release of Positron can use that instead of just Claude Anthropic API key like it was until recently. Actually, yeah,
I think as a student or a faculty, you can get access then to via GitHub Education to these things without having to pay, right?
yeah. Yeah, so if GitHub Education, I didn't check these plans. I use the Pro subscription, the $10 a month, right? That's the one, right? The basic one. But yeah, basically now the assistant, actually, you see I'm using Copilot chat. So if you log in your Copilot assistant, Copilot account, I mean GitHub account, even if it's education, the models should appear here. What models you have available in your GitHub Copilot account. So yeah, it's the same that we have in VS Code. So basically, this is just a fork of VS Code, but they added so many features of integrating with with R, like RStudio is, that it's probably worth switching over from VS Code to Positron now for R, especially if you have this Copilot subscription, the education one, maybe very likely it's the same. Yeah, it should work with Positron. And then they have specialized module extensions that work only in Positron. So even though they are VS Code extensions, essentially, they have a very interesting extension that we should use for data exploration. And also, I think even a package manager, because that was one of the things that was missing. Where is it? Oh, it has a Posit publisher, but yeah, the integration with Quarto and everything in the new Positron. We should probably have a session about that, but I just switch for R to mostly on Positron now because we have the same agents, LLMs. They don't read agents MD, which is kind of silly. They have a different name for that file, but in Linux, I just make a symbolic link. I think it's called llms.md or something like that. And you can have the same instructions also read for the current project. But the important thing is that you have Copilot chat here as a Copilot if you have a subscription or even the free one, but or education, right? It should be available in Positron now for agentic work, yeah.
You just check, I have access to all of those also. Yeah, GitHub Education. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing. So like any of you who can actually get access to GitHub Education, I would encourage you to apply for it so you don't have to pay. Like some of you are like students, right?
Yeah, is it? I was wondering, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's probably a good idea to at least like this could be like, I don't know if it could be like an expense that could be covered by for some of the people of the group in the group, it's especially if they want to. I'm not sure how this works. I mean, of course, you have to approve the budget and everything, but seems like $10 per month. Actually, I think for year is very easy. I don't know. Yeah, per year they have, it's probably just 100 or something. I mean, I know that some groups, they bought chat GPT team or something, but I think this VS Code Copilot, sorry, a subscription is probably a better investment since it's about coding. And now that it works with Positron, I think it's even more interesting to use.
I'm curious about like the specific advantages of Positron. You said like it's better integrated with R, but are you familiar with is it like directly accessing variables or something, or like?
Yeah, that's what I was actually trying. The data bot they have there. Let me share it again. So the data bot extension, they have that. Actually, they can read the variables in the environment. That's one thing that seems to work so far. So they have integration with the console here. Yeah, with the R. This is actually Python. Unfortunately, Python gets in the way if I have a Python file in the project. But in R here, R acts like Radian. It knows what objects, what are the attributes of each object. And in the agent, actually, you can ask about in the agent, can tell if a variable it's an environment or not. So that kind of integration helps. Unfortunately, even that one actually can be brought in VS Code with some packages. The Posit made, it's R, by the way, it's called. And that was I was doing earlier, but here they have a specific. The main advantage would be they want to promote this as the better tool replacement for RStudio, and they made specific extensions here, like the databot one, and I think there's a shiny one, maybe the quarter one, but they are specific to Positron, so they don't install really in VS Code, of course, because they they want to make it distinct, but it's oriented toward our integration. So that's the main advantage with a lot of things. I didn't get to try all these extensions, but yeah, that would be, especially for packaging. They already have a good package manager, I thought before. I'm not sure, I haven't really used it, but I think they now have integrated with LLMs to help with package management, which is quite complex
Yeah, so I guess when I was first thinking about this, I was thinking if people had specific ideas to work on, we could sort of asynchronously work on different like templates and stuff. But I don't know if that's maybe as practical as I was thinking if we're not, since this is all very new and I'm not sure if people are using agent mode super often.
Sounds like people also need to apply.
Yeah. Yeah, with the free, it's not, you don't get I think it's like it's something very very minimal with the free version, unfortunately, so far. But yeah, I think just like moving forward, this is something that will be useful to think about. I think there's a lot of potential for making things easier, really.
Who also use this?
Not as much as they did. 'Cause I don't write as much code.
Who else uses? Is anyone else using Copilot?
Sorry, we can
Is
hear you.
anyone else using it here, like meeting? Making. Is anyone having?
Those, no, not as much.
Do you know more about what constitutes a premium request?
Yeah, it's basically just like the smarter models are, if that's what you mean. Like, I guess the cheaper, like less intelligent models are free, like typically.
So it would just like, I guess like the GitHub Copilot Pro gives you more premium requests. And so if you tried to make a premium request of the free model, it just would say, I can't do it.
Oh, if you have Pro and you're doing a free model, I think it's like unlimited. You could do it like infinite times. I don't know the actual number on like how many requests you
I
can
guess
make.
like how, when making a request, is there a way as a user that you know I'm making a premium request versus a regular request?
Yeah, it's in the list here. We see the 0x, 0x, and 1x. This 0x means unlimited, so they are a regular request for weaker models, and 1x is actually the credit that is used. So this is a premium model if it has 1x here.
I see.
It's 0.33. It's a very new one from Anthropic that's actually quite good, but yeah, it's only counts at a third of credit. It's a limit of credits, whatever uses like 1x is 1 credit or something. That's a limit per month, depends on the subscription model, the tier that you have.
And what kind of queries like count as premium? I think that's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, it's not whatever. When you select the model, you actually, it doesn't matter the query. It could be a very simple one. How are you doing or something? That would be a wasted credit. So it depends what you select here. That it's not an auto mode, auto select. That would be the next idea.
Can you open the chores package?
Yeah.
Like the website.
I was trying to find out the other, I don't remember what the name of it was.
Change from Pal to chores.
Okay, yeah, that's.
When I
couldn't find out.
demoed it, it was called in January, I think. And now it's called chores.
You also use ChatGPT?
Yeah, I think for just like more general stuff. I think when coding, it depends, I guess. If I'm asking more vague questions, I'll use ChatGPT. But I think most of the coding stuff I do with,
You pay for ChatGPT also.
yeah, just because I'm just like personally interested in it. I think it's like worthwhile for me. But if you're not, like at this point, like even the free version uses GPT-5, so it's like it's not much better. Honestly, I feel like they keep making it less advantageous to buy the premium. But yeah,
So can you open the GitHub version of it?
yeah.
Maybe on the top right behind, like this. Go to inst and then go to prompts. Click, I guess. Let's look at the oxygen one, I think. Actually, no, let's look at Clee. So this is a really long document. You can see it from Nick scrolling on the right side. It's like, I don't know, 1,000 lines, maybe longer. It does a link to websites at some point. It says like, use information from here and from there. Has a like Simon Couch, maintainer of the chores package, I guess, developed this super detailed prompt and tested it for, in this particular case, helping you update your code to use the Clee package for error management. Now, if you go back to the chores documentation website, let's go to like articles, I guess. But some helpers. I think they have a little table somewhere about like all the custom prompts people have made. I'm gonna see if I can find it myself soon. Oh, sorry, it's actually under articles galleries.
Yeah.
So other people have made other prompts. And you can see that some of them, like the one by Hannah Frick, you can see that the code leaves actually on a guest, right?
Yeah.
So I think like this could also be like a useful thing for us to maybe have an R package that has custom prompts that you can then use with chores. A little bit how like the Jaffe Lab package has like a lot of like different custom functions that can help us for a few different things.
Mhm.
We could have something like a Liber chores package or some other name.
Yeah.
Where we collect different chores I guess we're making. Maybe one of these could be like the chore that extracts the information you need for a method section.
Yeah.
stuff like that. So, because I mean, I think in an ideal world, Gio and Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think those MD prompts, they could be used both for this chores interface with the R package, but also directly if you want to copy paste them into your agents or markdown file or like the other files that you were talking about.
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly right. Yeah, and it's very interesting. I was trying to remember this chores package that was mentioned last time, I think, and this is exactly what we should probably try to also adopt some of these, right? And there is now emphasis. The latest thing from Anthropic is the term skills instead of basically it's like prompts like that, standardized, and they give skills they can be invoked with just like a code word instead of basically pasting the prompt in there. The framework that's built around the model, it can fetch this prompt based on the name of the skill and say something like apply this skill to my source code, and this could be one of these chores, right? So this is a trend now to standardize this prompt, make them templatized like that, and make them into like skills for the LLMs, right? And that's a great start with this chores package.
And Nick, you also Google the R package. It's also by, I would open it in a new tab. It's called Gander, Gander space R. So it's also by Simon Couch. And if you scroll a bit further down, there's a little bit more. There's this screencast. You can make it a little bit bigger. So this R package is maybe another way where you can see that like the R script on the top left side, Simon is demonstrating that if you select a few lines of code or like an object name and like, press a keyboard shortcut. Imagine that you're like then a little prompt window shows up and you can type a little bit of text and can say like, by default, I want you to replace the code that I selected. And so behind the scenes, this Gander package is actually submitting prompts to an LLM, but also providing the full context of the objects that you have selected. So this to me feels like even easier than typing on a chat window. Although on the flip side, you don't get like that much information of what the LLM was thinking, right? It just does it.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's not giving you a bit of that context that you get. So I don't know, but
They are like coding in Python.
this also works for Python.
Okay.
But this is very similar to what you can do now in the IDEs. Indeed, and you see more information about what's reading, what's doing. In the agent interface, I actually specify sometimes just replace this chunk, since I'm using markdown chunks, right? The code chunks, and replace this, which is could be a plot exactly like this. Just I'd say adjust, x-axis or whatever they do here, apply a new scale. And basically you have the same, you have to execute it yourself, run the chunk after the modification, but it does the modification of the code for your replacement right now in agent mode.
Yeah. So like if you scroll for a little bit further up, you can see the keyboard shortcut is Ctrl-Alt-G. You edit some things in RStudio Positron, and you scroll all the way up. It says here like, why not just chat? And so there's provide a little bit of the motivation. And so I said that it works in Python, but actually reading the documentation says that it actually only works with .r files right now. It works on Positron, that's why I thought it worked with Python too. Yeah. The video is behind the scenes that package, which I demonstrated in January. To me, it feels like more user friendly for someone that is just getting started. Yeah. Anyways, I guess there's different options, but you do need to have like GitHub Pro account, and like there's a way of getting GitHub Pro for free if you demonstrate that you maintain open source software. So that also, for example, for Nick, who's not a student and not a faculty, not a teacher, maybe that helps you actually get it for free. You have to apply. And these applications take a bit of time. They can take a few weeks. So you have to plan ahead. Yeah, so I think you guys want to get started on that package for, having these prompts that are maybe compatible with chores, but also compatible with the agents markdowns.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Right? When we have a little helper function, if you're like, hey, I actually just want to kind of like Slurp jobs where you say like, I have this template, I want to put that in my directory, and then you further edit it after that. Yeah. Right. So you can have something that uses like the template project code structure and like links to that.
Yeah.
But then maybe you modify it a little bit more, right, based on the specific application you have in mind. But at that point, you have to edit it manually. or like something for like Space Ranger or Cell Ranger, we typically have a repeated set of columns, right? Like Redcap, which is a database that Ryan and others have worked on for documenting experiments. It exports the data with specific column names.
Yeah.
So some of those things could be standardized. But maybe what we also need is a way of displaying all these files that people have made, right? Like right now, for example, if I wanted to search on GitHub, on the Libre Institute GitHub, and find that prompt that you wrote, right? I'm not so sure like what would be the queries that we need to do GitHub search to try to find it, or if we need something more advanced than that.
You can just do, agent MD, but it's only in one. I just started using that. So it's gonna be just that one. Usually it's just agent MD I'm gonna use because it seems to be the standard now. But that's very specific. So I think from templates we should use a different paradigm, right? I mean, for skills or very more general hints, it would be better to have, as you said, maybe a repository just for that with templates for prompt templates.
Cool. Yeah. I would encourage you guys to work on that package and get input from everyone who wants to. That's good. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Gio. Thanks.